Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy here.
I see that we're live on YouTube, everyone. I don't know
Hey,
if that means
YouTube.
live, but this is to all of us, and I think we're trying to get Laylee on here. But meanwhile, I'm Taupe Nguyen. I'm here with Marion Hill and Adele Pham, and we're going to talk about filmmaking, and then we're going to get into our diaspora a little bit about what makes us Vietnamese. But first, I wanted to acknowledge, as suggested by Adele, that today is George Floyd's death anniversary, and that is a huge milestone for our country and the world, and you know, a lot of meaning about that, and we can get to that in a little while too, as it also relates to our diaspora supporting others. And there's Laylee connecting to audio, so she's on her way. And another acknowledgement too, that a lot of people are doing in meetings is that I'm on Tongva and Chumash land here in California, and we're actually all over the place. Adele's coming in from New York. Laylee is in Southern California, close to San Diego, and Marion is repping from Louisiana, one of my favorite places on earth. So I still see Laylee connecting. But meanwhile, Adele and Marion, so which part of you is Vietnamese? Tell us more about that.
Which part? The best part.
Yeah, all of it.
No. Which part, like which parent? Well, for me, just one parent. My mother was born and raised in Saigon. And she actually had a pretty interesting story. She's kind of a double immigrant because her family left during the war and went to France. And then, so her whole family is, well, her parents and her siblings and are in France, but then she left France in her late 20s and came to the US. Yeah.
Wow, where did in the US did she come to?
She first went to the Bay Area, San Francisco, for work. And has been kind of hopping around the world. We went back to London for a while. We spent time in France too. So we're kind of just hopping a lot between transatlantically.
Yeah. You have an EU passport or a British one?
I do. I haven't, renewed for a while, so I'm not sure what I actually have anymore. But yes, I do. I do have a UK passport for whatever that might be worth currently.
We'll
Yet to be seen.
And Adele is more Vietnamese than me often. So tell us about that.
What, because of my anger problems? Lee is still connecting via audio. My dad is Vietnamese. He's a refugee from 1976. So he was in the ARVN Navy. So he was able to get out of Vietnam when, the communists won. My mother is a white American lady. She was an ESL for Hmong people, Hmong refugees, when she met my father. So I think that kind of made her interested in him. Also, weed was decriminalized in Portland at the time, so that had something to do with it. And yeah, I have two younger brothers, and I actually have two older sisters that I didn't know about until I was 23, and I did the sojourn back to in my case the fatherland, and really kind of bit off more than I could chew there. So I guess one of the questions is like, what makes you Vietnamese? And that's my child screaming outside. I guess like that trauma, that I definitely, a lot of Vietnamese people I know have that kind of war baggage, or issue with the parent who is a refugee because of secrets they kept, post-traumatic stress. Yeah, so that's me. And you probably will not find very many people with a Vietnamese refugee father and a white mother.
Mm.
You're out there though. I know more.
Parallel when I was 25 or 26.
That's a great documentary to watch when you get a chance. Parallel Adele, with two Adeles.
Yeah, we can put it in the
Sure.
chat. I'll
Happy
Google it. Like, it's free online, but if there are any professors watching out there, you can buy both of my films, Parallel Adele and Nailed It, from Third World Newsreel.
Yes, they're awesome. And Marion's film I read sold too, so we'll get to see that sometime this summer. That's exciting.
Yes, indeed. Coming out in theaters on end of August. Yeah, very excited. So yeah, I think August 20th will be in New York and LA, and then New Orleans plus from I think the 27th.
All right, remind us. We'll hype it up for you. We'll put it out
Thanks.
there on the
Yeah.
internet and stuff.
Please.
And Lily needs no introduction. We're still connecting. She's getting on here. But I mean, she's like a godmother for us all, being the woman who wrote the book that became the film Heaven and Earth, directed by Oliver Stone, about her life. And since that film, it's been nearly 30 years, and we haven't had a huge Hollywood film that has centered a Vietnamese American woman. So she'll be on here in a little bit to tell us more. And Adele is actually planning on going to Vietnam with Laylee. So Marion, if you got some time next year, like April, there she is. I just saw Laylee's hair, a swath there. Yeah. Okay, we have evidence, and I think we.
Hello.
There she is.
Hi. Here I am. Here, come. I want to introduce you. Look, my adopted daughter. I adopted her. So here is Kỳ Nam.
Hi.
Just want to say hello to everybody.
Hello.
Thục đất you want. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. I heard about you a lot.
Oh, I want to hear more about you two. How did you kidnap her? I know that you sometimes try to kidnap young people, including some of us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's why I kidnapped her from Texas.
Yeah,
From Texas.
Another Southerner. She's going to get you next, Marion. Texas.
Oh
is
man,
right
coming for me.
Louisiana. Okay.
Yeah, hey, I don't have any daughter. So any daughter is a good one. I adopt them all.
That's
You
right.
be
3
careful.
sons, too much. I mean, maybe back in the day, people were like, oh, great. Three Vietnamese sons. That's like a dream. But we're in 2021. We're going to push your real kids aside. Now you got the 3 daughters here.
Okay.
So what are you up to? And what exciting things can we help you with? And your trip to
we
Vietnam,
have a lot of excitement.
I know. She keeps reminding all of us that, okay, we only have 4 years to the anniversary of the fall of Saigon on April 30th, 2025. So we have to show the world what we've all been doing for the last 50 years, or else we have failed.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, with you around, with all of you near me, I get it. I get it done. I get it done. And if I don't get done, it's your fault because you don't support me. No, I'm just kidding. Hello, everyone. Rebecca, where are you? Here you are. Oh, there I meet you.
Look at those wild earrings. Laylee's got projects. She's working with a documentarian also on a pitch about tough ass Vietnamese women who will kick your beep 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 butt. Who I've been reading some stories that she sent me. I can't believe these women existed. They're completely intrepid, no fear. So that's really encouraging, because I feel the same way about the 3 of you, that because you exist, you help me fear less.
You know, woman, we cannot be afraid of anything, because nothing worse than give birth to a baby. If I do birth a baby, that is the rewarding thing and also the best. But that it we can overcome everything. Yeah. So if we can go through that, then yeah, we can do anything and everything. Yes.
Yes, well, you know, we leave that up to you and Adele because Mary and I have dogs. Okay, so
Well, you just are lucky. Tom are so light that you only take care of the dog, and we have a mission to do to bring the life forward. So we have to have children and grandchildren just show up right now to visit in me.
okay, we're gonna give you back to them in maybe 30 minutes. We'll think about it. But
Okay.
in the meantime, yeah, people call their films their babies as well. I know some people do that. So what other proverbial babies are on the way for everyone?
Yeah, many baby. Your project is your baby. Okay. Your film producer or book writer or painter or whatever you do is your baby because you give birth to it, and it will be your legacy, and that is to carry your name and carry your identity. I mean, you know, if you get up and do something, if you own that, it's just like you go out and make love and have a baby. Same thing. That's
They
simple.
love the material.
Yeah.
That's true. Our legacy, and we have a joint legacy together besides our individual ones that tell stories of, you know, different parts of ourselves, or, you know, our characters that we create. They, you know, embody parts of us as well. I know for Layli's film, it was her. It was Layli's story. And for Adele, so many people from real life in that story. And from Marion's, what character do you think embodied you the most in your project?
Definitely all of the characters were a piece of me. Yeah, I think that's sort of what naturally happens. But yeah, there's no one character that I think really carries me more than the other. I will say I have yet to really put my Asian foot forward, my Vietnamese foot forward in my film, and I'm really excited to do that in the next script that I'm sort of slowly starting to work on. But yeah, I think it's tricky, you know, because I'm finding it tricky. I don't know about you guys. I guess I'm not sure how much narrative work, Adele, you've done, or either of you. But yeah, kind of figuring out, you know, how much space, you know, Asianness gets to take up in your story. How much do you want it to take up, you know, like explaining someone's background, explaining someone's culture, explaining someone's language, and versus just kind of letting it be. That's something on my mind very much so at the moment.
Well, we're here for you. So if, you know, you want to ask any questions about that anytime, we're around. Like, trust me, Adele and I are always around.
That's
I
good.
don't think that you should have to try so hard to fit that in. You know, I would say for ways that you could have a person's background just sort of implicitly fit itself into the dialogue, or just encountering characters with a background without having to do that whole backlog, you know, but the things that are revealed about them tell a story. And I think as a narrative person, narrative people, it's important to normalize hybrid people, you know, Asian people, people of color, and not have it be so tokenized as we currently experience it in media, because it feels false.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
I'm not going to tear any Asian films apart right now, but sometimes it just feels really forced, you know, when you're watching an Asian film.
Yeah. Yeah, don't try to wedge it in, but I think some of it your background will naturally come out. I was watching another interview with you, Marion, and you said when you review your own work, you see what your subconscious made without, you know, you actually realizing it. So you never know. Yeah, after a few viewings, like, wait a second, I got that maybe from my mom, or maybe from somewhere else, maybe from eating too much dung fung, Vietnamese. Who knows how it can seep in? But yeah, whenever you're ready to tell us.
I wonder some other ways Vietnamese stuff can seep in. I don't. Maybe there could be like a casino scene, or I don't know.
Oh yeah,
No, Laylee would know.
Throwing
Laylee's
it
always
out
gonna-
there. Let's see. You're in New Orleans,
gambling.
on like a gambling boat or something. I'm being bad.
Yeah.
I think also normalizing, you know, your own mixed identity. It's so much a part of, you know, who we are as modern Americans, but it's still, you know, you were seeing more mixed couples and McDonald's commercials and this and that, but, you know, really thinking of mixed characters, there's not too many that leap off the screen to me. And I think there's subtle ways to do it that will really resonate with a modern audience, and they'll be like, wow, I've never seen something like that before. And you know, that's the best feedback I got from Nailed It was sharing it with young Vietnamese women who were college age, you know, so I was almost old enough to be their teen mom, you know, but they still had a lot of baggage growing up with you know, Vietnamese immigrant parents for a variety of reasons. So it's really interesting when a film like Nailed It like makes somebody cry, you know, and some of that is just never having seen your story reflected on the screen before, and that can be moving for you.
Hugely. And I remember when we were in New Orleans screening Nailed It, a Black woman stood up in the crowd and cried and said that she had never seen a Black woman and a Vietnamese woman together on screen, or that world reflected, and she could relate so much to it. I know in Laylee's new pitch, she has a story too about a Vietnamese mother whose story is reflected through the daughter. So she's going to explore some generations as well with some of her upcoming projects, because she's on, let's see, what, third, fourth generation of little baby, grandbaby Vietnamese Americans now, and kidnapped children too. So, you know, add a few. My mom and my mom's mom was like that too. I think it's in a long line of Asian tradition to adopt people when they're older, when they're adults, actually. I've been
I hope so.
Yeah, it's been going back. Vietnam, China, even they would adopt people in their teens, you know, just have people and take care of them and bring them into the family.
Especially if you don't have daughters. Yeah.
My mother always says, if someone call you mom or grandma, take it, because you never have enough children or grandchildren. So that is why the Vietnamese culture, we're talking about bác, chú, cô, cậu, ông, bà, anh, chị, em. See? And so, you know, why not? It doesn't cost me any extra just to I become somebody mom or grandmom, and I'm so proud to do so. Only thing I see today, at 4 of us, I have white hair and you all have black hair. And you have something that I do not have. That is your knowledge, your English, you're educated here, and you have maybe not, but I hope it maybe your life is much more, much better than I had. However, one thing you maybe have, or maybe don't have, is the wisdom and knowledge. It's a life experience. You maybe have own kind of experience and knowledge from books and university. I had it on the street corner. And so that's the thing that I now is 72, and I look at all of you young faces and beautiful and smart and intelligence and work hard. That is the key. And make things happen, make the difference, give the voices, and letting burning until, you know, at the we end of me, then you continue, then your children will continue. That only way that people will accept. Let the Japanese look at back and look at the Chinese when they came here to build the railroad. And now look at San Francisco, who the richest, who the most, you know, respectful is the Chinese in most of it, San Francisco and most of the Chinatown, you know. So that is the Vietnamese. We only here 50 years. It's still young, but young generation like you, I am sure we will further event because last 50 years, lot of things change. And I think that is the future of how to aim to do something bigger than we think. And it can be, if you can do it, it's okay. At least you try. So there are many ways and many opportunity for young generation like you to take it over and take the ball and run with it.
Oh, that's great. It's a good reminder that our diaspora has only been here for almost half a century, and the other ones, yeah, they're old hands, so they can just kind of, scoot over for a second, and we can share our voices as well. So, no, thank you so much.
Yeah, our military industrial trauma is newer, so move over for a second, just one hot second, please. Not even move over, but an issue that I have in the industry is like everybody's just so thirsty, like when I meet somebody who does something better than me, I'm actually like inspired by it and I try to be friends with that person. You know what I'm saying? So I think that my hope is that in 2021, we can stop thinking so individualistically and really start thinking about, how we're going to make these films. Because, it's sad that they have to make themselves. Like, it's sad that it takes this long to make these films. And there is wealth in the Vietnamese community. Yeah, they've only been here for 50 years, but they have generated, a cornerstone in many different industries, including the nail industry. It's just not a part of our culture to be a patron of the arts. So I don't even know if we need to rely on them. And that leads into a deeper question, like, am I making Vietnamese films? Am I really a part of that culture or not? And what's interesting in my film journey is that it's actually brought me closer to Vietnamese culture because I met extremely unique Vietnamese people through the nail salon journey who are lifelong friends of mine. So, that's kind of where documentaries at times reflect more on their maker than the subject. Now, I have a ton of information and nailed it, so you learn all about the nail salon industry, but in a lot of ways, it's my story. It's me realizing what it is to be, hyphenated Vietnamese, but Vietnamese in America.
Exactly. Adele keeps sending me all of these wild Vietnamese people she finds online too, so we get the chance to keep exploring.
We are funny as hell. I'm sorry.
We're
some of the funniest Asians I've ever met in my life. For sure. Kelvin?
Stop. And the four of us too. I think we're all.
Oh, of course. Me and you?
Hilarious at times.
But me, we just like text each other all day. We think we're funny.
That's all that really matters. So that's all that matters is that brought us all together, and the four of us. And a point that Adele brought up is true. Layli told me a wonderful story about crabs, and it's a great idea. It's a great image to imagine at the beginning of a narrative. And the story goes, there's a Vietnamese fisherman with 4 crabs in a barrel, and a Japanese fisherman also with 4 crabs. And correct me if I am not telling this correctly. So the one Japanese crab climbs up, and the other 3 crabs are like, yeah, you go ahead. You get out of here, you do your thing. And meanwhile, the Vietnamese crabs, one's trying to, crawl up and tell the world the message for the other ones. And the Vietnamese crabs are like, no. So they pull the other crab down, and all 4 crabs drown and die. And that, I think, is a great fable in that we can't do that as a group, as anything, just as human beings, as women, or even more specifically, what we are, Vietnamese American women and Vietnamese diaspora women, is that it's good to, give all the crabs a boost so we can come up and for some air and get some bubbles instead of, just trying to clamor too much and waste energy.
On the wave, so we can all rise at once, let's not be crabs. And the whole crab in a barrel metaphor, I mean, that's something that Black people can relate to. So we really need to start coming out of the closet with these stories. And that's something that I realized with Nailed It is like, wow, it's just a simple education can really change a whole dynamic. in a community, in a nail salon, and because we just don't know enough about each other. I mean, that's the whole dynamic of, you know, the divide and conquer aspect of our institutionalized white supremacy and classism and racism. So it was really interesting to see, you know, how emotional people have gotten over Nailed It. And the support that I've gotten from Black women has been really phenomenal. So this is a story that people want to hear, those connecting stories. They want to understand where people are from, but unfortunately, we're so uneducated in this country that the majority of non-Asians just see us all as blanket Chinese, and that's just kind of accepted. So again, the burden is on us to educate everyone, and we should be paid for that labor. But I do think it's more important just to spread the information. And if you happen to have that drive, that creativity to make that story, you know, that's important. But it's hard to motivate young people to continue with that vision when there's absolutely no resources for them. So I always encourage young people to, you know, think about how they want to make money and protect the art. I went at it full force, like I'm just going to be this artist, but I don't have rich parents. come from a very working class background. So I have to really hustle to make money. And then you end up, you know, funding your own film. So there's something wrong there. But at the same time, if you have that drive, you know, you really should try to see it through to the end. Those stories are really important. And yeah, I mean, they can shift a whole societal dynamic. That's the power of film. And in my medium, that can be the power of documentary. It can sway legislation. It can, you know, sway people's hearts. And that's how we make this systemic change that we desperately need in this culture.
Yeah, I think through narrative or documentary, too, sometimes they blend together. And, you know, sometimes people feel the responsibility to tell certain stories so people know how the lives of others are. And even just by merely existing and being a filmmaker and people learning about your background and learning that it was possible for you to make your projects, all of you, shows people as well that there are Vietnamese American and Vietnamese diaspora women out there doing it. And so can they. I saw this last week on Red Table Talk, because it was going around different Asian boards online, of Jada Pinkett Smith and Willow Smith and their Gammy, Willow's grandma, not having experience with Asian American women at all. And Gammy's one example is when I go to the nail salon.
Because I mean, they're from Philadelphia. So what, I don't know. I didn't watch the Red Table Talk, but that seems a bit lazy to me.
Yeah, she realized the conclusion was that, you know, she could also reach out and speak to Asian American women at nail salons or in a store, wherever she might be, try to bridge more of these gaps. It was one example that was used in that. So yeah, so that's one thing. Even you know, address it. The other side.
Vietnamese people, they just don't care. At least she cares. She doesn't know any Asian people. Damn.
So we can also, you know, reciprocation was a topic of their discussion, and everyone can do it. We can all do a little more reaching out and, pardon me, knowing about each other's stories. Yeah. So, what stories do you want to tell next, and how will you incorporate other groups into it? Layli or Marian?
Your younger generation have more events than my generation, because your generation, you're very open-minded, and you can able to, just like from beginning when I share with you, I say be careful with the community, because they boycott you and they hijack you and they kick you out. And I mean, you know, that is what I went through for the last 30 years. And so anything that you're talking about, the filming or the book or anything to do with Vietnamese community, I can't help you, because they don't accept me and I'm afraid of them. And I you know, I'm sorry to say, but you talk about racists. They are the one that is a very much racist. Just I give you a sample. Just last week, I had a young man who used to stay here with me for almost a year, and he worked for a Vietnamese man who owned a delivering company. And so this young man named Roy, who stay here and work for the Vietnamese, and the Vietnamese family have a room. So he said, okay, move there, closer to his work and everything, so it's okay. But he always come back here and visit me, just like adopted son, right? And so every time he come here, I cut some rau, I cut some pepper, I send home, whatever, right? And the people who he's staying with, I thought they would appreciate it because it's all organic and it's all beautiful, everything from my garden. But they never call and say thank you or I love you, Rao, or whatever, right? And so last week he came back and he said, well, I have something to tell you. I sent them home with him a bag of green mint Rao, right? Very beautiful. I mean, it's just so good. The lady he handed over, she opened and looked it up. She threw in a trash. And he said, what? That is organic, vegetable that go leave water every day and take care of it. Why you throw it away? She said, oh, they comment it. I don't want that stuff. And he said, that is ridiculous. And so he took it out from the trash, and then the lady take it and then smelled it. And she said, oh, okay, I keep it. It smells good. I keep it. And now I know why she never eats my stuff.
Yeah, there's jealousy issues among people in our community, and we've all touched upon that. And the crab story is that instead of acknowledging each other and supporting each other, some are out there, claiming or yelling Viet pride at the top of their lungs, but they want to be known instead of actually be in cooperation with all of us and trying to help each other get our stories out there, because there is room for everybody. The Vietnamese community does still operate on these principles of scarcity. And if one person, or especially one woman, gets, some notice, instead of helping her help the rest of us, we often get the opposite. And sadly, that hasn't changed. I think that is one thing our, diaspora can work on together for sure. And I feel very fortunate that, again, those of us here, don't participate in these types of things, even though we've been affected by it. And so we're here to discuss, like, how can we help everyone, and then younger kidnapped kids, like your granddaughter you shared with us from Texas. How can we help someone like her feel more comfortable in
I'm
our community?
interested in the younger ones.
Yeah, well, I will bring her back at the end so she can share with you what she does, and maybe all of you or one of you can work with her because she's very talented, 22 years old girl. I mean, I really, I talk about you guys because I want her to know you and work together with you. She's been here only 6 years as a student, but I get talk to her and stay and do something because her brother is the same. They come here now. She already have her master, and she go for PhD now for 23 years old girl, and her brother same. Both of them go for PhD. And so if you get that, then they want, her brother want to go home and work there. And I said no, because Vietnam now doesn't need that, but here we do. Here we do need that. So
Wow.
And so that kind of thing, that is why I always say yes to younger people, because I'm gonna, in Vietnamese we say trang trai già mang mọc, right? The old bamboo die off, the young shoot can take it over. Or giò rồi dẹp lại một bên để cho lũ trẻ lớn lên kịp thời, right? The old stand on the side and help the young so that they can take it over. And that is what we want to do. It just like Thục say, it is, it's for everybody. The market out there is for everybody, and especially the people who able to, like us, have a mind, willing to take risks, willing to speak up, willing to make a move. And, we believe what we need to say and done, because otherwise nobody will do it.
Right. We can't rely on others, even some of the younger layer too, when you try to move aside. It really depends, and we need to work on it as a group together. And maybe we can all incorporate some of these themes into our future work. What are the main themes in the next project you're working on, Marion?
Well, it's interesting talking about, you know, I nailed it. Adele, you're saying just, you know, people never really haven't seen relationships between Black and Vietnamese, especially in New Orleans, where there's a preponderance of interesting relationships among, you know, different minority folks here. And I recently spent a little bit of time, I think I mentioned this to you, but down on the bayou, in the Delta area, and just I didn't realize, you know, that there was a whole Vietnamese community there.
And they all talk that talk.
Yeah. And it feels like you're in Vietnam when you go down there. And I've just been so like happy to discover, you know, that community, because it's so like I've actually struggled to as a transplant to New Orleans, who is Vietnamese. So there are, you know, native Vietnamese community. There's a big Vietnamese community here. Reaching them has been difficult for me, like finding organic ways to just, other than Tet, other than showing up for the Tet. I also don't speak Vietnamese. I speak French.
You have to
So
go to Catholic church there. You just go to church.
yeah, exactly.
Mary, I have some Vietnamese people to introduce you to down there, actually, Marion, a young man who works at the opera. He's actually Vietnamese and white as well. He's great, Dylan Tran, Jun. And so yeah, I'd love to hook you up with some people I know.
I would love that.
I'll hook you up with Kevin Pham. He's like a Cajun Vietnamese guy. What I mean by that snapping and trapping talk they do, is like the Vietnamese accent meets the Cajun accent. I've only heard that in New Orleans, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's like
I also
South meets
love
South.
when I go for like, you know, Cajun food, and you just know that there's a Vietnamese person in the kitchen, even though it's not, you know, like broadcast or anything, you just know. And I love that about Louisiana. Just, you know, you kind of never know when you're going to bump into a Viet in a weird place.
I had a nephew who lived there in New Orleans, and he was here about a couple of weeks ago. And only thing he wants to talk about with it, I'm not interested, is that he had 3 beach hotels in Da Nang. He had 5 mansions in Da Nang, and he had $200-300 million in Bitcoin. And
Where he at, Cole? I need
and when I went there in 2000, I think in 1990, 2005 in those days. And so he brought me to the bank, and he opened up the same deposit box, and 10,000, 10,000, 100,000, 10,000, 10,000, another 100,000. He have $1 million cash in box. He can't buy the house. And he wanted me to help him. I said, look, I can't involve in something like that. It's just not right. But from that money, and he said he had a $100,000 cash in those days, but what made him to 300,000 and make him become billionaire, what the katana, you know, the blood, and the government pay his nail shop, pay his house, pay insurance, everything. And with all that money, he took that money and he go to Vietnam and he buy land and he buy whatever, and he become very, very rich. But only thing it is, his wife still work in a nail shop, and he delivered the food. So I asked, what wrong with all that money? You have 4 children, 3 is doctors, and 1 is a lawyer. So why did you want to do this? And he said, because he bored. If he doesn't have anything to do, he will be bored. But I mean, he showed me all the coin, whatever, that Bitcoin, and how many for one. And I mean, see, that kind of people, I'm scared. I stay away and I don't have anything to do with it, you know. But some people like you, I don't mind to spend time and talk and have fun and kidnap you to come to be with me. But the people like him, I will not introduce you to him because he have no idea what you guys want or doing. He just want to give more money. That is scary.
Wild. Yeah, no, that's a whole different kind of smarts. That's a example of a crazy success story of the diaspora for sure. It's
Amen.
something, you know, to really think about. And, you know, all these doctors, and you said you got a few PhDs, you got to watch out for my parents because they're going to try to kidnap those from you. Just don't say PhD around my parents.
I think my dad is gonna kidnap one of his kids. My dad can't believe he doesn't have at least one pharmacist. It like blows his mind.
Are there any Hill siblings that could be kidnapped, Marion? Or are you the only one?
I do very much have a Hill sibling, big sis, who is much more, much better at just diving into Vietnamese culture on a consistent basis than I am. And she currently lives in Singapore. So hopefully, and we were very different. And in a good way, like, you know, she's kind of the grad school sibling, who's, you know, just excelling in her international career, more in the kind of business nonprofit world. And yeah, that's what she's doing.
Right. There's so many more stories of people like our siblings and our families, and with Laylee being,
Yeah, my dad wants to kidnap her sister already. If you're watching,
Dad, go away. But yeah, we've got, you know, Laylee as a godmother, just film and storytelling about Vietnamese by Vietnamese American women, and also the godmother of street smarts. I mean, I think the three of us are pretty street smart too. We've made it this far. We may read a couple books here and there, but you know, we get by in the mean streets of that
complexity of Laylee's life. I mean, I don't think that Vietnamese Americans have ever come to terms with that complexity. I mean, a few films, books have sort of oh, I might be frozen, shit. Yeah, just the complexity of that story, and then knowing that Laylee's village was so close to my father's in Da Nang.
Yes.
And you know how virulently anti-communist he is. I mean, it's like DMZ, it's the middle of the country, that's where the war was being fought. So that really kind of like opened up a layer of complexity for me, you know, just how messed up that war was. You know, I'm wearing Kramal right now. You know, when I wear this, my dad says I look like a communist. He says I look like Khmer Rouge.
Oh, he again.
What's wrong with that?
He's against Ko, but I think that, but he's not stupid. You know, and also I think as he's gotten older and the things that he's gone through in life have opened him up more. He's less rigid in his thinking, I think. But he still can be very much a nationalistic kind of jerk in that way. But that generation's going to die out, you know? And it's fascinating to me that Laylee could have, you know, I mean, honestly, people threatening to kill her, right? And now for our generation, it's like cool to call it the American war in Vietnam. I mean, that's kind of boggles my mind a little bit. You know, it's like so cool to be so woke about, you know, how the war was a crime of the American military industrial complex, which is true. But just how that dynamic has completely changed rolling into the 21st century here. So, you know, our parents' generation is going to die out. The South Vietnamese flag, I mean, what does it really represent? When I see it, I like it, you know, because I grew up, my father having it plastered all over the house, but I don't want to equate it with the Confederate flag, but it doesn't exist. So this is a generation that is loyal to a country that they lost, but the generation in Vietnam, I mean, they don't even recall the war in that kind of way. They don't want to. So yeah, and our generation is so much like vapidness and thirstiness. They're not even really asking these deeper philosophical questions about what it is to be a refugee, what it is to be the product of an American war. And you know, I just don't think that very narrow kind of South Vietnamese or the highway mentality is really going to last. I mean, it's already kind of dead.
Yeah, there's much Hollywood brainwashing.
And I say this knowing full well that the communists murdered my grandmother. Like that is also, you know, with me. It's not like I celebrate the communists, but you know, it's more complex than well, it isn't that much more complex than would you rather be ruled by the dollar or the gun? And so, you know, all of us here would rather be ruled by the dollar.
Yeah, we I mean, all of our generations, we deal with things like patriarchy from, you know, the culture of the country, of, you know, our families and such things. And I know that Adele, particularly, you're going to like what Layli is working on. A lot of the stories take place on Vietnamese soil about women before that war, like women who fought colonialism from the French times even. And that's our legacy of all four of us.
Chinese.
Is the Chinese, the women warrior aspect. And where will your next story take place, Marion? Is it on American soil or does it go anywhere else? Like you went to France last time. We got to, you know, travel with you.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stay here in Louisiana is the hope. I definitely, I'm interested also in y'all's thoughts on just traveling back as a VQ to like shoot projects and how, you know, if you've thought about that, if it feels pertinent to your storytelling, or if, you know, or if the Vietnamese American experience is more pertinent in what you're thinking about currently. For me, it's definitely, I haven't explored the Vietnamese American experience yet. So, and particularly, like I was saying earlier, the Louisiana one. So, yeah, I plan to really lean into not only the Vietnamese community, but like the differences in the Vietnamese community. And that's where I'm kind of like, is this going to go over people's head? Is this too detailed in terms of like who came over as a fisherman and who came over as an immigrant who, like, you know, became the model minority? And are we still the same people, you know, with those huge class differences? Can we still relate to each other? And yeah, those are things I'm thinking about.
I think those are, of course, excellent questions. And no matter if your characters are Vietnamese American or not, the fact that you breathe the life into characters who question these things or who represent certain things, certain aspects of you, I think is super important. But yeah, again, we're open to discussing those other things with you. And Layli and Adele know better than me. My old boss is Vietnamese American, and he spends most of his time in Vietnam working on film projects where when he was here, he was, you know, fairly big in Hollywood stuff. You know, he'd written a big feature for A-lister and whatnot. And those two worlds can merge, but they can probably address that better for you than I could because they've had experience or they're planning on actually filming in Vietnam. I've written a scene that takes place in Vietnam in a story, but we'll have that discussion down the road to see if that can be pulled off or can be doubled somewhere else and fun stuff like that. But I think we touched upon some really fantastic things, and, you know, we'll hook you up with people in Louisiana who we know. And then Adele and Layli have some work to do together next year. They'll bring us home some stories. But yeah, we've begun to open up things, and we've begun to help each other as crabs get out of the barrel.
Yes.
At least the ones here. At least the
Yeah.
4
You
crabs
have
here.
to ask the question
Yeah,
like
Marion, if
guy
you get out
asked.
of the barrel before me, I won't hold it against you.
We'll give you a boost. We'll help you up with.
Yeah.
Come on.
We have Rebecca as an excellent ally who helped get all of us together. So I feel like we were very fortunate in that respect to be able to share our voices today as well. And we can continue all of us talking, with Laylee's adopted kids and whoever else we need to ask questions of to see what stories we want
Yes.
to help each
Let me
other.
call
hone.
her and she can share with you a little bit what she does because you will be very, very proud of her.
All right, I think that's a great way to end because